The giant chicken is one of Family Guy's most memorable recurring gags, for better and for worse. Some find its absurdity endearing and think of it as classic Family Guy, while others think it's nothing more than an excuse to waste a few minutes of an episode's runtime. Let's take a look at the history of Ernie the giant chicken, his name is Ernie by the way, and ask ourselves if this running gag was worth including in the show. Chapter 1. The point of the chicken. The giant chicken is first seen in an extended cutaway gag in the season 2 episode, Da Boom. In the episode, a guy in a chicken suit offers Peter a coupon, to which Peter says he doesn't trust chickens and coupons, which triggers a flashback where Peter uses an expired coupon given to him by this giant chicken. Out of anger for the savings he would never receive, Peter physically assaults this chicken, leading to an extended battle of fists all throughout town. This giant chicken fight is about a minute and a half long. So something about this first giant chicken fight is that it subverts the cutaway format of Family Guy. The point of the cutaways is to add a quick laugh in the middle of a scene, but this cutaway is even longer than the scene in which it takes place. We as the audience are expecting a quick little haha joke about Peter getting mad at this chicken, but instead it just keeps going on and on. There are even a few moments within the giant chicken fight that are jokes on their own, such as the part where the chicken seemingly escapes from Peter on top of a truck, only for it to suddenly loop around to the exact same bridge. And when Peter walks through the office after seemingly winning, going, "Giant chicken, bad coupon," only to be attacked again. It is also a unique showcase of the kind of action that an animated show like Family Guy is capable of. Not only could something like this only be done with animation, the absurdity of the chicken fights takes us out of reality and allows for a display of action that can't be done in many other more grounded situations. The giant chicken reappeared in the season 4 episode Blind Ambition. The first plot of the episode revolves around the women of the neighborhood wanting Quagmire to move out for being creepy. And as Peter is trying to defend his friend, the giant chicken comes out of nowhere, triggering another fight similar to the one seen in Da Boom. Something different about this giant chicken fight, and every future fight as well, is that this one does not take place within a cutaway. It takes place in real time. So the thing I said earlier about subverting the cutaway expectations is not present here. However, this giant chicken fight still subverts expectations, as obviously we weren't expecting this dramatic long action sequence in the middle of a scene revolving around a more mundane conflict. When Peter finishes fighting the chicken, he then returns to the scene, still beaten up, and continues the conversation like nothing happened. These moments still serve as subversions to the regular storytelling of a show like Family Guy, and it never fails to get a laugh out of me. The Blind Ambition chicken fight itself also has a bit more intensity than the first one, and utilizes more vehicles such as a train and a cruise ship. I will also note that this giant chicken fight is around 2.5 minutes long, nearly a minute longer than the first one. The giant chicken returned only one season later in season 5's No Chris Left Behind. While Peter and Lois sit at the dinner table discussing something more mundane, the giant chicken appears in Peter's window, starting another fight. This chicken fight once again outdoes itself with more carnage and destruction than the last. This chicken fight does one more thing different that might be my absolute favorite giant chicken related gag in the entire series. In the middle of the fight, they just stop and go, "What are we fighting about?" And the giant chicken offers to take Peter out to dinner with his wife, to which they then fight again over who should pay the bill. This one comes in at just under 5 minutes. However, some of that time is taken up by the scene where the giant chicken takes Peter out to dinner, which is about 1 minute of dialogue. So to give this one a fair shake, I would call this giant chicken fight about 4 minutes. But even with that, it's still a minute and a half longer than the previous one. So by this point, the chicken is firmly cemented as part of the show and is sometimes seen in other gags, but it wouldn't be until season 10 season finale when Peter and the chicken would have their next formal fight. This chicken fight dropped the joke of the previous two of interrupting a normal conversation. This time Peter backs into the chicken's car. This fight is the most ambitious of them all. They end up time traveling, cloning themselves, and even going into space. It's also 5 minutes long, nearly a quarter of the entire episode. Next season would also kind of include a chicken fight. In an episode where Stewie's time machine makes time go in reverse, we get to see a giant chicken fight in reverse. Strange that this is technically the last chicken fight so far. Other than that last one, each of the 4 main giant chicken fights follow an increase in intensity as well as an increase in runtime. So let's ask ourselves the question: do these giant chicken fights waste the viewer's time? Chapter 2. Does the chicken waste your time? One of the most infamous elements of Family Guy are some of its overly long, drawn-out jokes. This includes moments like Peter saying he's going to make dad noises, which is followed by an entire minute of just that, this person with a really long name, and the infamous Conway Twitty cutaway where they just play about 1.5 minutes of footage of an old-timey music video. The reason these jokes are widely disliked is that we as the audience can see that Family Guy is trying to pull a fast one on us, and not give us what we expect when we watch a TV show. Beyond humor, we're looking to engage with the story and get to know the characters, and when roughly 5% of that story is taken up by Conway Twitty, we know we're not getting what was promised to us. But why would Family Guy do this? Most likely to cut production costs. You need to save a little bit on animation? Just have Peter sit there for a minute under the thin veneer of it being a joke. You finish your script draft and find you're about 5 minutes short? Well, I guess this is the episode where the giant chicken returns. But is this necessarily a bad thing? After all, one could maybe see that the iconic "I did not care for the Godfather" scene saves on animation costs, as the entire scene is just the characters in one place moving their mouths. In a way, it's not that much different than dad noises, right? Well, the most obvious difference is that "I did not care for the Godfather" is funny and showcases the character dynamics, whereas dad noises does not. You certainly couldn't accuse the giant chicken fights of trying to save on animation budget, as they're some of the most animated scenes in the show, but it does save the writer's time. Now, while a few minutes of an episode doesn't seem like much, the actual mental labor it takes to provide quality during that time is quite a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if, at least in part, the giant chicken fights are a way to give those writers a break. All in all, I don't think the giant chicken fights are a waste of time in the same way that dad noises is, because they showcase Family Guy action and absurdity, and are quite memorable. The only chicken fight that I think went a little too far is season 10's. It was a little long in the tooth, and didn't include the other bits of humor that other chicken fights have. It didn't have Peter walking back into a scene all beaten up and then continuing like nothing happened. It doesn't have a funny character moment like them going out to dinner. It doesn't even have a moment that gives me a laugh like the truck moment from the first fight. Peter and the giant chicken haven't fought in a long time. However, that doesn't mean that the chicken hasn't appeared at all. There are even 2 recent instances of the chicken being brought into the story in different ways. But does bringing the chicken into the story ruin the joke? Chapter 3. Did they ruin the joke? The giant chicken is for the first time a major plot point in the episode Fecal Matters. Strange title. In this episode, Peter works as a nurse at the hospital and sees that the chicken is terminally ill. So this is a common trend in long-running TV shows, making a whole episode based around a certain recurring gag. It's a way to make an episode stand out and boost ratings by encouraging viewers of the older episodes to check out the new one. Oh yeah, I don't really watch new Family Guy, but they did an episode about that giant chicken. I remember those giant chicken fights. I think I'll check it out. They did the same thing when they made a whole episode about the My Leg guy in SpongeBob, which I did a video on. Link in the description. So I think there are some merits to this episode as well as some issues. The episode gives some meta commentary on the giant chicken. The rest of the family even make fun of Peter for acting like him and the giant chicken are some kind of iconic rivalry. While it's funny to hear this acknowledgement of the giant chicken from characters who usually never even speak of his existence, it also kind of goes over the line of making the giant chicken too real, and robs it a little of the absurdity that made it special. Something I do like about this episode is that it uses the giant chicken to tell a story that's relatable. While no one has ever fought a giant chicken, there are people out there who have people they dislike in their lives. And to see someone you hate hurt or sick is probably a strange feeling. By using the giant chicken to tell this story, we as the audience can already identify that this is someone Peter hates. If it were instead a character we'd never seen before, like Peter's childhood bully or something, the episode would have to take time to explain who that was, whereas with the giant chicken, we already know his history with Peter. Peter's character arc throughout the story revolves around him deciding if he should allow the giant chicken to die. Lois argues that Peter shouldn't let the chicken die because everyone needs an enemy, which prompts Peter to change his perspective and save the giant chicken's life. Peter then explains to the chicken how much he likes their adversarial relationship, and this is the main part of the episode that I take issue with. The problem with Peter outright saying that he likes that the chicken might attack him is that it weakens their adversarial relationship. When Peter admits to the chicken that he gets a thrill out of their rivalry, that ends the rivalry. Now the chicken knows that Peter likes being attacked, so is it really an attack? They're basically just friends who do MMA at this point. And that's the problem with doing an episode like this. The absurdity of the giant chicken fights are now weakened because you made me think about it too much. I think this episode could have worked if it had instead had Peter lie to the chicken about why he saved him, saying he was just doing his job as a nurse or something. This way, we as the audience could still know that Peter gets a thrill out of the giant chicken rivalry while not having to weaken that rivalry by letting the chicken in on it. And that brings me to the final giant chicken episode. And for this one, I'm actually gonna pop a quick spoiler warning, since at the time of this video, this is the most recent episode of Family Guy. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you go watch it and come back. So in this episode, Meg dates the giant chicken's son, Nugget. Oh, Chicken Nugget, I just got that. This is simply a story about someone reacting to their daughter dating the son of someone they hate. And by using the giant chicken, we can immediately recognize it's someone Peter hates. Beyond that, a lot of the plot goes how you would expect. They fall in love behind their dad's back, Meg and Peter have a falling out, and Meg moves in with the giant chicken. Meg murders the giant chicken. Wait, what? Yes, you heard me correctly. After all these years of Peter and the chicken's battles, it's Meg who takes him out for good. But why does she do it? It's because the chicken says that in order for her to be a part of his family, she has to disown and hate her own dad, to which she refuses. It's kind of poetic. Now, this episode is far from perfect. While I enjoyed it a lot more than the average modern Family Guy episode, I do think it was just a little lazy with some of its story beats. For example, Peter just kind of walks into Meg's room when the chicken's son is there and just kind of finds out that they're together. The way that Meg turns on the giant chicken is also quite quick. They just turn on a dime when the chicken reveals that she also has to hate Peter. They also just kind of casually reveal that the chicken's son was cheating on Meg in the final scene to just quickly wrap all of it up. She doesn't even have a formal breakup with Nugget, which I think is a little disappointing considering how the episode actually did a really good job of making Nugget likable, and we don't really get to see a conclusion of their relationship. Lastly, while this episode did a little bit of legwork in reversing some of the mean-spiritedness that Peter usually has towards Meg, it doesn't deeply engage with the idea that Peter hasn't treated Meg well and should be a better father. If the episode had steered more into that, it would have been more meaningful when Meg ended up being the one to take out Peter's mortal enemy. I think they really missed an opportunity for Peter to react to the chicken's demise, and either thank Meg for it, or get upset about it because he's now solely responsible for all the collateral damage they've done over the years. Assuming this is the giant chicken's final episode and they don't do some shenanigans where he comes back as some kind of robot chicken, in what I would assume would be a Chris-related plot, I would say it was an overall decent send-off to the character. Family Guy is clearly done with the crazy giant chicken fights. The last formal one was all the way back in season 10, and I don't think they would ever be able to top the crazy things that happened in that fight. So they finally decided to end the character in an unexpected and pretty meaningful way. This episode did lack a proper fight scene reminiscent of the previous chicken fights. They kind of make you think the chicken and Meg are gonna fight before the chicken goes, "I'm not gonna hit you, you're a girl." Which, like, I don't know, I kind of would have liked to see Meg fight the chicken if I'm being honest. They're killing him off anyway, so would it matter too much if he's willing to hit Meg? It would have even made her actions a little more justified. Although, I think the real reason this episode didn't have a proper chicken fight is they just thought it would take too long. And this episode is already completely focused on its primary Meg/chicken storyline. It's kind of ironic that the final episode revolving around a gag that is accused of being used to pad out the runtime is an episode that is so focused on its story that it's not even willing to do that gag. But that's the giant chicken, one of Family Guy's strangest and most iconic characters and running gags. I was surprised at how little he shows up in the show, considering how iconic he is. Love him or hate him, he no doubt has had an effect on the audience. But what do you think about the giant chicken? Do you think the gag is dumb, a waste of time, or is he your favorite character? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, if you like this video, maybe you'd like to see this other video right here. If you like what I do and want to see me do more of it, consider becoming a channel member or supporting my Patreon. Link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.